What is happening, Ricky? I'm so honored and appreciative that you're here to join us today. And I'm excited to introduce you guys. This is our client friend, somebody whose name is brought up quite a bit within our client success team because of just it's one thing to hear about students who have fast success, which I shouldn't even frame it as that because you were in business before IFCA. You've been building your business for some time, and I want to go into that. But you had a quick ascension in terms of like fast success in IFCA while, which is just a crazy thing, taking on not just one master's program or doctorate program in physical therapy, but also getting your master's in public health, which is just pretty insane. And I want to talk to you all about that. How do you balance this? What were some of the things that you did to create space and reduce overwhelm? Or are you just white knuckling and just running on, Celsius and, and Adderall? That might be the case too, and that's fine. But I want to know all about it. So anyways, what's up, man? How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Just finished some studying actually. So
That's not surprising. Not
surprise.
surprising at all.
Midterm season.
Yep. So when do you go on break?
We have like kind of a spring break moment, which is like in the middle of February, and then we have like a longer break at the end of April, and then we start doing some clinical rotations.
Right on, right on. Very cool. Well, let's just jump right into it, man. And I'm going to give you a pretty vague and open question. I'm really curious. Take me through your story. Like, what led you into not only entrepreneurship, but also what led you into the fitness industry, wanting to get your doctorate in physical therapy, and obviously with your master's as well. Like, what led you to this career path?
Yeah. I had my own like fitness journey myself, and it was kind of compounded with a mental health journey. I actually, when I was like 22, I dropped out of college. I was 250 pounds. I was like broke. I was like distant from my family and friends, just kind of dealing with a lot of health issues, kind of like in and out of the hospital for like depression, and just kind of really, really lost. And what kind of grounded me on that journey was kind of like taking back like my physical health and my mental health and then like my financial health, all at the same time. And they really kind of helped me feel grounded as I kind of took all these things back. And so I found a love for exercise. I found a love for weightlifting. I found a love for like what your body can do, like also teaching you like what your mind can do, and just like kind of learning how to sit with the hard stuff, but also like feel highs and lows that journey kind of brought me. So it got me into like personal training. Started doing that for 3 years. Did that 3 years in person. Worked for like a big box gym. They took 50%
Yep.
of my paycheck.
Yep.
I was like hustling so hard and absolutely miserable. I was working with like 60 clients, which makes no sense because I was doing, you know, a 50 to 60 hour a week and like trying to make 50 grand because they were just taking all of my money. And now that being said, like they taught me a lot my first year, right?
Sure.
And it was worth working for them to learn, and they helped me give an intro to the industry. That
Sure.
being said, when I had mastered everything they had taught me and I was bringing them money, there
Yep.
was no reprisal. There was no money given back to me. The only way I could make more money was to bring in more clients. I think at one point, they stopped paying me 45% of what I was making and they raised it to 50%. So that was my kind of big moment. While doing that, I also went back to school. So not afraid to go back to school and work at the same time. And I did finish my undergrad degree at Ohio State. And the intent was to go to school for physical therapy, kind of just to learn more, just kind of take it to that like higher end, and use that and combine that with like fitness ultimately when I graduate. So I moved to Chicago about 2 years ago, decided to also get my master's in public health and kind of learn about like community development because I have an interest in that research side. And kind of built an online business. Now, when I built my online business, the idea was, okay, I'm going to pay a couple bills, take out a
Sure.
shit ton of loans, uh, just try to survive and try not to live with three roommates as a 30-year-old man in Chicago. So I started doing that, started working part-time, built kind of an online business. I think when I like hit IFCA, I was at like 3K, 4K, like the occasional 5K a month, but I was going so hard. I was working, 20 hours a week, trying to make that much amount of money, feeling really burnt out. And it did better than I thought it was. And it went from, a hobby or just to pay a couple bills to like being able to pay my rent, or even like, make me pay my cost of living, which was great. But then my best friend, Bree, who is also an IFCA, she started working with you guys, and she just like had great things to say. And I was like, all right, this is like really, really scary because this is my tuition money. So I took my tuition money and invested in you guys.
Wow.
And the turnaround has been times 4. And I've been able to like start paying tuition bills and taking out less loans, and also like buy myself a nice vacation and like take a nice guy on a date, which most grad students can't do.
Of course, yeah.
And kind of have a little bit of financial freedom with working less. And now I have a team of 3, which is cool. Well, I team of an assistant coach and then an executive assistant. And we're pulling in anywhere from 15 to 20K months, and it feels good.
Hell of a recap. I feel like I have any questions now.
Go for it. You asked for the whole story.
Yeah, no, that was powerful, and so many things to unpack there. I'm curious, you as an individual, and there's a lot of inherent, like intrinsic character traits that just translate into building a business. And the fact that you had gone through some struggle, and I always say that it's almost a superpower if you have worked in a box gym, because it gives you just such perspective as to how lucky we have it to be able to support people online. That like, anytime you're just feeling a little frustrated, or you have like a check-ins piled up, it's like, man, at least I'm not sweating my 12 hours a day in a box gym, right? So that's really cool. But what other like life experiences would you say that you've had that just led to what seems to be a pretty relentless work ethic?
I think when you lose everything, so like I grew up with like a nice home and a nice family and good education.
Where did you grow up again?
Cleveland, Rocky River, Ohio.
Yeah, very familiar.
And I grew up with and I was taught to like work since I was 14.
Mhm.
Like in my family, you worked as soon as you were able to get a job. And not that my parents were financially uncomfortable, but my parents like to teach work ethics. We taught how to work hard in school, work hard in work. There are immigrants who came to the United States with nothing. So like, you want to talk about like inspiring stories, like just look to my parents and being like, if they can build this from that, like what can I build with all of the privilege that they gave me?
Yeah.
Right. And then
I've never met a lazy second generation immigrant. Never once.
no, my siblings are also just ridiculous hard workers and successful people too. And I was always like a hard worker, did well in school. And then when I was hit with something that was out of my control, like medical depression, in and out of the hospital, like at one point, like I didn't know if I wanted to live. Yeah. And I lost everything. And things that I had worked for and things that I was given. And I felt alone and I had nowhere place to start. So when you have to take every single piece of your life back, when you have to build everything from like, I mean, I used to work like part-time jobs. Like I worked 3 part-time jobs, starting at 20 hours a week, because that's all like my mental capacity could take. And then I had to work my way to 30 hours and then 40 hours. And I slowly built back my endurance and my fucking confidence. Like my confidence was wrecked. I was like, do I have the capacity to work? Am I smart enough to stay in school? And just to slowly build something progressive. I didn't like go out of the gate and go from super depressed to like running my own business and getting 2 degrees. It was a slow progression, but every single step of the way, I learned about myself and I learned about my strength and I learned about like endurance and my capacity to handle difficult things, and just built on those success. And a big part of it is I just asked for a lot of help.
Yeah. It's funny how that works, right? When you're honest. I always say the moment, like you don't allow yourself the ability to be found, quote unquote, if you don't admit that you're at some point lost. And I think that's where a lot of people remain stagnant and struggle, is they just don't want to admit and like throw in the towel and say, hey, I need help. Whether that be from a mental health standpoint or a health standpoint or a business standpoint, whatever it is. I think we just get so stuck in like, I've got to do it. I've got it under control. So credit to you for being willing to, be vulnerable there. And thanks for sharing all this too. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah,
You
I'm
know,
an open.
then that's fantastic. I'm curious, when you were going through that, I'm kind of going off path here, just because I think people's stories are really fascinating to me. Like what experiences have allowed, an individual to become successful. And I've never met somebody who has success, and not just that, but sustainable success, who hasn't gone through some really hard shit. And like, so when you were going through that, were you cognizant and aware enough to be like, this is just part of my story, right? Because that's how I always try to tell people. I'm like, listen, when's the last time you watched a great movie where it was like, okay, main character, everything's perfect and awesome, and they just have this rapid rise to ascension, and then it's just beautiful? No, you need some shit. Did you have that awareness during that time?
No, honestly, I was in like full on survival mode.
Yeah, of course.
Just trying to like, I'm day to day, week to week, just trying to find my grounding. And I think now that I feel a little bit more grounded and I know what I want and I have trajectory, that being said, there's a shit ton of things that I want to do. And that's why financial freedom is nice, because I can pursue those other things. I can see a little bit like of where my story, and I can see how important it was. I'll tell you, I was kind of like an ambitious asshole, because I was given some things and I was learned how to work hard. And I was just like, well, if you can't work hard enough, then you must not want it, right? And that's kind of, I think you find that language in just like the fitness industry. It's like, oh, you don't want it bad enough, that kind of language. And that used to be me.
Yeah.
And until I got beaten down by the world, I was like, oh no, like the world's shitty, and we need to like provide people with support and the tools to live whatever kind of life that they want. But that wasn't something that I ever realized until I needed it. And that's kind of the support that I like to provide my clients now. And, but they got to ask for help first, like you said.
Of course. And you can't manufacture that. Like, unless you've gone through it, unless you've experienced it, then it's hard to really be there to hold space and support somebody who is. So, your story is powerful, man. And I'm sure without it, there's no way you'd be where you're at today. So let me ask you this. You mentioned that at some point you kind of admitted that you were lost. But it seems like it's always interesting to me, individuals in your case who are doing okay, like things are going all right. Not only are they going all right, but you had a perfect justifiable reason not to focus on your business, because you have school, you have all these excuses, right? You basically have every list of objection that you could have pulled up, except I don't know if you had like a partner objection or anything else, but you had everything else, right? I don't have the time. I don't have, like, finances you didn't just have money laying around. So like, what caused you to be like, even though you were comfortable, to be like, what, good is the enemy of great? To be like, I know I can be doing more. What was the ultimate thing there?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I'm trying to think back. What made me take the plunge? I think it was a couple things. I think it was the promise of having this business and building it from scratch, for myself, by myself, something that nobody could take away, really motivated me. I think it was also like the temptation of, okay, if I put a lot of work into this, what does that leave me for the future and the financial freedom? Because guess what? Physical therapists don't make a ton of money.
Yeah.
And public health people make zero money, right? Yeah. And I was like, well, I want to pursue those things and those academic interests, and they still work with my business, of course. But I also, I want to live whatever kind of life that I want.
Yeah.
And I said, I can wait and build this business out, or I can, just start digging in right now, because guess what? I was already hustling. I was already working the same amount of hours. I was just doing it really poorly, not really poorly. I was doing 4K, 5K months from scratch. But I wasn't doing it as efficiently as I could. I didn't have the accountability. I didn't have the support system, and I didn't have the knowledge of the tools to do it better. So I was like, I'm already working. Let's see if I can work smarter, not harder, and have some more success. And
yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. It's like, hey, I'm putting in the hours anyways. What if I just had more leverageable hours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. I'm gonna ask you a question here that is a little bit more, I guess, out of the box, but I love this question, because obviously you've had financial success. You've probably, I assume that you're probably the guy in your program who everybody's like, everybody's broke, eating probably tuna and crab. Like, no, I'm going to fucking steakhouse tonight. Who wants to come? Like, oh, none of you guys. Like, so what's something that you've like that you're surprised about that you were able to learn about yourself through this process of like mentorship, building your business, getting help?
Yeah, I think I've never been somebody's boss. I've been in like leadership roles or like presidents of clubs or like, I helped a lot of other trainers when I was at that box gym, but I've never had to be responsible for somebody's like financial income, their well-being, making sure that they're feeling, supported and making sure that they're being able to pay their bills and that they're being fulfilled by the work. And that pushed a limit it opened up a new part of me that I didn't realize that, first of all, I enjoy. It gave me a new confidence to say, oh no, I can do this for somebody or multiple people and feel really good about it. It's actually very close to coaching clients. Yes. Where I'm coaching employees now, not necessarily bossing them, but coaching them, supporting them. And to be able to position to provide people with like a good income, which is a very cool opportunity, makes me feel like a CEO, like makes me feel like I can own my business. I feel very legitimate. I have a lot of people that first sign on with my company and they're like, oh, wow, this is like way more than I thought it would be, or like, this is so professional, or this is so clean. Like my sister just signed up with my company and she was like, I didn't even know it was this good.
Yeah, that's a great feeling. And I love that answer because there's no better catalyst to self-leadership than creating the accountability. And if you're accountable to a team, you have no other choice but to keep your shit together and to lead yourself, because the moment, and I've experienced this personally, the moment you stop leading yourself, there's no hiding it. There's no masking it. It's in every detail in how you show up. So I think it's just a really cool pursuit for anybody who wants to do greater things. It's like, yeah, build a team because you can't do it alone. Yeah. So what about like, let's take it back to when you did join IFCA and we're going through some of the tactical things, right? We're looking at the business structure and we're like, what were some of the key, well, I'll phrase it this way. Tony Robbins talks about sometimes how a lot of times in business, we're only like a 2 millimeter shift away from changing the trajectory of our business and then having like rapid, almost compounding effects. What for you were some of those like small shifts that were made that you're like, man, that's what triggered, turnaround?
Yeah. Definitely the process of onboarding my clients is a lot cleaner, a lot smoother. The way I do consults with new clients, I hate sales. I think that being said, I'm good at sales and I also really believe in what I'm selling. So I don't hate it as much as I used to. It used to feel very forced. Now it just feels like a conversation. And now it feels like, okay, how can I help you? And are we a good fit? Not like I'm desperate for your money, which it used to feel like. I think I was able to raise my prices because I was offering a better product. And I also felt good about raising my prices because I was offering a better product. And my clients get better results now with IFCA, even though all we've touched is a lot of the logistical and business things. We haven't touched the way I coach. We haven't touched, my philosophies around sustainable nutrition and functional exercise. We haven't really touched a lot of what I was teaching, but we're touching the way it's presented. We're touching their onboarding. We're touching like how long their commitment is. We're touching, back-end sales and getting them in for a longer commitment. And they're getting better results. They're getting faster results. I'm getting actually the best results that I've ever had with clients since I started working, even when I was working with clients in a box gym. I'm getting better online results and happier clients. And they're here for a long time commitment, and we get fans, and which is a really cool feeling.
Really
but
cool.
there's a lot of the logistical business things
that really helps feed into itself, right? Because the more conviction you have in the product, then the easier it is to sell. It's so easy to sell something you truly believe in, and that's what I have that conversation with coaches a lot who are struggling to raise their prices or struggling, saying like my clients aren't committed, and they're trying to patch up holes in a boat with like bubble gum, where it's like, no, we need to restructure your actual fulfillment and how you do things. And then automatically you're like, there's no way I would sell this for any less than it's worth because I feel so strong in the actual product. Right. So that's a really cool answer. Well, take me back to this. Like, what's the time? And I'm sure you've had some moments with this, but like, I want to talk about some moments during this process that you found yourself frustrated, stuck, maybe feeling like, man, shit's just not working. Can you think through some of those times and share with me and how you're able to push past them?
Yeah. I think the initial, well, first of all, I had to like let go of some clients,
Oh yeah.
which was hard, because I was like, oh, that's money. Right. Like, and I was like, and I kind of had to let them fall off. I didn't necessarily like fire anybody, but I kind of let them fall off because they weren't engaged.
Yeah.
And I re-signed a bunch of them, right? But to like let money go out the door initially when I was like trying to like do all the back end programs, that was hard.
Mhm.
That was tough to like sit for a month and just like work. And that being said, I hustled my ass off to get my launch as fast as possible, so that I could start making money. And then I would say probably just like the initial launch was really tough. It was just a lot of work. I had to put in a couple extra hours during a really busy semester, and just feeling like, is this going to work? Is anybody going to buy? I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, I think the first 3 sales that I didn't buy.
Mm.
I
That's
had like
tough.
15 more lined up, and it was like, shit. And then like the next 15 bought,
Yeah.
which was great. um, you know, and I think, I would say it was probably like 2 months ago, and my coach is Dr. Kev. Hey Kev. Um, and I was bitching him. I was like, Kevin, like I have to like put more work into like building sustainable systems. So like I'm getting like an influx of clients. And I have this month where like it was like 2 weeks maybe where I was like hadn't done any consults, and I was like super worried because I just brought on my assistant coach and I wanted to like fill their docket and like get them pay so they could leave their other job. And then all of the people that started my 90-day program ended, and then I got like 5 referrals
Yeah.
from people who did that, and I had the testimonials, and I had the consistent, and I had started doing like DM outreach, and you know there's still some systems we're still putting in place to give me a little bit more comfort. But now I look at my month and I can, you know, not do any sales and have a 10K month,
Yeah.
because I have people going into those backend systems, and now my assistant coach is selling into those backend systems. And again, all while still offering a good product.
That's the key, man. And that's, I'm really happy to hear that you've reached that point in your business where like you don't get caught in that rat race of just like new clients, new clients, new clients. It's like, how do I retain clients? Because it's the best for the business and best for the individual. And so, like you said, for those listening, Ricky, I assume you're in a position now where you can look at your next couple of months and see that you have monthly recurring revenue on projection. You know what's going to be coming in. So it's like, look, if I need to take a step back and not worry about signing clients because I have other obligations, I'm good. I'm still profitable. I'm going to make payroll. I'm going to have profit. Everything's healthy, which is just a great place to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fill me in here, man. The next question I have for you, take me through your time management process. And because I'm sure a lot of people listening here would love to know. So let's talk tactics. Like, how the hell do you keep up with, how many credit hours are you taking right now?
Oh gosh, this semester's easy. It's only 18. Last semester was 26.
Okay, let's talk through last semester, because even last semester would have been around the time that you were really building the business too and getting it
That's what I
towards.
did my 6 months with IFCA.
So talk me through that. Did you just not sleep? Did you social life? Like, what did it look like?
I mean, there were sacrifices. I mean, let's be real. You can't get 2 degrees and run a business and not make some sacrifices. There were some like weekends where like it was like instead of a night out till 5 a.m. because I can dance till 5 a.m. You know, it was like I'm in and out, or you know, like maybe like I go out one night a week and then do like a small dinner kind of moment. You know, so there were sacrifices. I think you have to make some sacrifices to make a business, especially when you have the time crunch to do it. That being said, I sleep 8 hours a day and I work out 5 times a week. Those things ground me.
Mhm.
Those things are my non-negotiables because they keep my mental health intact and they keep my physical health intact. And quite frankly, is like I like to tell a lot of clients that if you're tired and if you have no energy and you're not working out and you're not treating your body right, guess what? You're not going to have the energy to get your shit done. Whether that is nutrition and exercise based. So put some energy into that stuff and you'll get hours and hours of your life back. That being said, you know, I'm probably in class for about 40 hours a week. That being said, I'm probably studying another 20 on top of that. And I was probably doing like my business another 20 225 on top of that. So we're working like an 80-hour week pretty consistently. That being said, like when I have breaks in like December, I had 3 weeks off. Guess what? That was a lot of business for it. So it was kind of like taking it week to week, right? Like what needs to be prioritized, and like taking time on the Sunday to like plan my week out, not just trying to wing it. Write down my to-do list for school, write down my to-do list for work, set some goals, set some intentions, right? And schedule the crap out of my calendar, schedule everything that you need to get done, right? So if I have an hour here, I'm going to do this and this during an hour, right? A lot of people are like, I'm just going to make a to-do list. That'll get you to the point, but it doesn't make you be like time efficient, right? It's like, I can do a lot more in a half an hour than I can do in 4 hours if I don't actually set aside time.
Yeah.
Right. So I put in my calendar when I'm studying. I put in my calendar when I'm working on my business. I put in my calendar when I'm doing DM outreach. I put in my calendar when I'm going to watch a module. I put in my calendar when I have to do a project. Right. So I put that stuff in my calendar, and I would take an hour out of my day, or sometimes 2, to just get myself organized. And then that way I could be way more efficient. And kind of like keep myself grounded. That being weak, as I said, there's something I call like maintenance mode. Like there was times where I messaged Kevin, I was like, the business is not moving this week, or maybe even 2 weeks, because it's midterm hell. School is my priority. That's the thing that's taking $200,000 of my money. I need to make sure that I do well, so I can graduate and have success when I graduate. So business took pause, right? I think, does that mean I didn't do stuff for my business? No. Does that just mean it wasn't my priority, right? Everyone's always like, I gotta go, 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 go. Look at your week ahead, right? Is it a week where you can push things forward? Or is it a week where you just need to maintain? Or is it a week where you need to prioritize other things? I do the exact same thing when I talk with clients. I'm like, is this a lose week? Do you have the energy, the time, the capacity to lose weight and gain muscle this week? Is this a maintenance week? That doesn't mean you stop your workouts, but you do a minimum and you try to maintain. Or is this a week where, you know what, sometimes you just need to let loose and have some fun, right? And find that. But you're not falling off track, or you're not beating yourself up for not being perfect, or not pushing forward, or not driving 100% all the time, because that's a recipe for burnout. And I think Kevin does a really good job of coaching me to not do that, because he's been in school himself.
Yeah. Same exact path. And so I'm sure that that's been really helpful, but man, those are all just great insights. I always say to clients, and just like my own personal philosophy has always been like no zero sum days, where it's like, look, you're going to have days where, you're not going to hard drive in every priority of your life. But what if you just have, you make it a priority where there's like no zero sum days, where you at least do something, just one thing, right? Where even if it's not an hour workout that you're hitting PRs, progressing, like cool, like get in there for 20 minutes and get a sweat, and cool, like you're going to feel a lot better about yourself there. And just you mentioned like seasons. There are seasons for things, right? And even like mini seasons. We just had a kid in June, and like around that time, I really burnt myself out personally, because I still thought I was going to do everything else great. I was going to keep driving the business forward. I was still going to have like a social life. I was going to do all the things. And I ended up just reaching this point of falling apart. And I'm like, I knew that was going to happen. So I think it's just such a powerful lesson to learn. What would you say to somebody who's maybe in a similar position as you were, where maybe they're trying to start this business on the side, they have a deep passion and they have a deep yearning to want to build this business, but they've got comparable obligations. Maybe they're in school, full-time job, family, all these things, and they constantly tell themselves that they don't have time. What would you say to an individual like that?
I would say ask for help. That is like, I would tell that to everybody about everything, quite frankly.
It's a superpower. Like I've always been that way. I've never been afraid to be the dumb one in class, to be like, hey, like, what's this mean? And like, everybody will laugh and they're like, fuck you guys. Like, I don't care. I think that is a superpower. Just be willing to ask. You're so right.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I tell people, I don't do the shit I do alone. I have, first of all, you, and I have Kevin, and I have IFCA, like helping me with my business, right? That has multiplied my income times 4. I have a personal trainer who does my programming, because I don't want to do my own programming and then they're going to hold me accountable so I can get my own fitness goals. It's almost weird that I buy what I sell, because I believe in the accountability aspect. right? Somebody that's going to help you organize your time, or quite frankly, somebody that's going to offer you a little bit of empathy when you're a ball of stress and beating the crap out of yourself, right? I have therapists, right? I give the example of me being in grad school. I have homework, I have teachers, I have professors, I have tests, I have a financial incentive, all holding me accountable, making sure that I get the work done. If you invest in yourself and you make yourself, have that accountability, both financially, both in terms of time, both in terms of just like having somebody there to answer your questions and provide you support, like you can't learn a doctoral level amount of physical therapy. The information is literally all out there. You could get all the textbooks, you could get all of the research journals, you could figure out somebody's curriculum and you could read it all out. Do you think you're going to learn as well as somebody who actually goes to school for it for 3 years and has people actually teaching them and implementing them and then taking tests on that? Not even close. You couldn't even do that in 20 years.
Yeah, it's the speed. It's like you don't value your time, right? Like that would take somebody 20 years where what a program can condense in 3, or depending on what it is, 12 weeks or whatever. Yeah, that's like the most important way to look at it is, you're right, everything exists out there online. The question is, how fast do you want to actually attain it? Do you value your time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, powerful stuff, dude. Yeah, this is great. What's next for Ricky? Like, what's the future look like? I know you're obviously focused on finishing out your academic career. What's beyond that, man? Is the business going to be the big thing, or do you want to work in academia? Like, what's next for you?
Yeah. The business I want to grow. That being said, I don't know how much I want to grow it. I think, there is this like drive to like make as much money as fast as possible, which is great, but also like, I'm not somebody who has a tendency to spend a lot of money. Maybe I will now with some financial freedom after grad school, but I have about a year of school left, and I want to practice as a physical therapist in a clinic. I want that experience, and I want to run my business on the side. I'm hoping that I can switch less into coaching clients and more into coaching, employees and other coaches and teaching them what I do, while also helping the business expand and hiring more people on, so I can be more of a supervisor role and, be able to give feedback that way, because there's only so many years left I have about talking about calories.
I get it.
That being said, I have like ambitions in terms of the kind of clinics I want to work in. I like want to work in like a high-end like performance. I have like a history of like performance based. I actually have like an internship like working as a physical therapist on Broadway coming up, which is super cool. Which is like really big in my background. And then I want to get into some public health work. I want to take some of the knowledge that I have about nutrition and education, and academia is great, but it's also got like this intangible inability to connect with real people. And so they're not able to actually help the people that they research about, all these like disadvantaged and underprivileged people, that what they need is access to nutrition and exercise and be able to provide resources for that so that they can rebuild their lives. Yeah. And so I want to bridge the gap between education and the fitness industry, and, and kind of mix the two, because right now they're so disconnected. Like there's physical therapists over here and there's personal trainers over here. Rather, can you work together and create, something tangible for not only the general population, but for the people who need it most? And that's, I think, having the financial freedom of a company running on the side will give me the freedom to pursue some of those interests, which is really what I want to do.
Man, that's powerful. I love that. I want to ask you one more question, man, and this might veer us down a quick rabbit hole, but you being in the public health space, what are your opinions on, and I don't remember the lady's title, but I believe that she is in the public health director space. I think she's on the Biden administration, but there's a lot of stuff going around about, she said that obesity has nothing to do with diet and exercise. It's all genetic, right? Are you familiar with this headline that's been floating around?
I have not seen that headline, but that's an interesting take.
Yeah. I'll send it to you. It was in an interview. Let me see if I can't just Google it really quick. Yeah, so it's evidently a White House medical expert who basically says the number one cause of obesity is genetics. Her name's Dr. Fatma Cody Stanford, and she's the head of the Dietary Guidelines for America Society. Yeah, she went on to say that 79 to 90% of physicians in the US have a significant bias towards overweight patients, and that doctors do not understand obesity. And she went on to say that the data shows that the majority of people who have who suffer from obesity suffer from genetic predisposition, and diet and exercise are not much of a factor.
Yeah, I have a response to that.
Which, sure, look, like I think that there are obviously socioeconomic factors, right? Like,
Yeah.
look, if you grow up in an overweight family and in a low income neighborhood, you are not as advantaged to somebody who grows up in a family who fucking runs and feeds their kids organic stuff. Like, of course,
Yeah.
but I think that is a pretty scary label to share, you know?
I understand her intent. Her intent is to say that, you know, genetics plays a factor, but her intent doesn't also, she's a doctor, I'm assuming, medical doctor.
Mhm.
Yeah. This is a thing with medical doctors, because medical doctors don't know actually shit about fat loss.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of people that's like, they're putting them on like diabetes medications nowadays to like kill. I'm like, they're putting them on like $400 a month, my diabetes medication to kill like their hunger cues, rather than teaching them about nutrition and exercise. And we're giving them everybody a fast pill, and you're going to blame it on genetics. I'm not saying genetics doesn't play a role. I'm also not, I can tell you that socioeconomic plays a role too, but I'm also telling you the solution is diet and exercise.
Yeah.
Like, the solution is those things play a role. And you're right, a lot of doctors don't understand obesity, that I can agree with, but they also don't understand how to make people change. Getting somebody to change their life around nutrition and exercise is a skill, and it has a lot to do with psychology, it has a lot to do with habits, and it has a lot to do with education. I've had several clients lose over 100 pounds that have been obese their whole life. I was obese. Let me tell you how I did it. Diet and exercise and education, and learning why I was doing what I was doing, rather than putting them on some restrictive bullshit plan that only works temporarily, or shoving some needle in their arm that the second they stop taking that medication, they're going to put it right back, or even, you know, doing a surgery, right? Some of those surgeries are life-saving, but if you're not actually teaching somebody what to do after the surgery, they almost always put the weight back on.
Course, yeah. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly now, but semaglutide. It's a new medication that, you know, doctors are even prescribing to children, that acts almost like the bariatric surgery. It causes your hunger cues to like kick in way sooner, right? So you're like, it makes you feel hungrier way earlier. And I'm seeing reports of them like giving this to children as young as like 10, 11 years old. It's just chaos. So I think it's really, the reason I brought that up is I think it's powerful that somebody like you is going to be getting into the public health space, because I don't think many truly educated practitioners who come from a evidence-based nutrition background go into that world of academia. Usually they're bought into the antiquated doctrine of the pharmaceutical type, overlay that just becomes doctrine, right? So it's going to be cool to see you step into that space and, you know, butt heads with some people and be like, hey, actually.
Yeah, there's a gap. There's a gap where like, you think the fitness industry is about like biceps and ripped abs. And I think the fitness industry is actually the gateway that helps people to do health, but you're too busy, you know, doing research and making sure that your article is perfectly published, to understand that a lot of really good trainers out there, a lot of really good nutrition coaches out there are making an impact on the population, but you don't want to see that because they didn't put the word doctor or masters in front of their name.
Yeah.
And you think that they're stupid. And guess what? I know a lot of personal trainers and a lot of nutrition coaches that are way smarter than some of the doctors I know, especially around the issues that we study, right? We study fat loss, we study exercise. Guess what medical doctors don't study ever? That stuff. And that's from somebody who has doctors in the family.
No, it's like, obviously the medical industry is incredible. We've made such amazing feats and leaps and bounds. But yeah, just the idea of preventative care, the more that we could just, and I think it's becoming so obvious that the medical community is going to be forced to have to start adopting it, because the information is too abundant now. People are just becoming more aware. So I do think that there will be shifts, and it starts with individuals like you who are doing things like this. So anyways, brother, I appreciate everything you've shared here. Where can anybody listening follow your journey? Maybe you want to, reach out, connect with you. If you want to share like social media handles.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Ricky Lochi. Just give me a friend request. I'm pretty good about accepting them, unless you're weird. And then my Instagram is also just my name, Ricky, RICKY _Lochi, LOCCI.
Excellent, man. Well, thank you again, guys, and make sure to give Ricky a follow. And dude, thank you again for your time, and talk to you guys soon.